Kira Voss Porter stood at the kitchen window of her farmhouse and watched her husband work in the garden below, his hands moving gently through the soil as he tended to the vegetables they would eat for dinner that night. And she smiled at the peaceful image he created against the purple sky of Verus Prime 10 years of marriage. And still he surprised her with his softness among her people. The Selvari, humans, were considered emotional creatures, beings who let their feelings guide them rather than logic. And most Selvari thought this made humans weak. But Kira had learned that weakness could be beautiful. Daniel Porter was everything her people warned her about when she first announced her intention to marry a human. And he was also everything she had ever wanted in a partner. He never raised his voice. Not once in their decade together. And when their daughter Lily was born 7 years ago, he had cried tears of joy while holding her tiny body. Something no Selvari male would ever do. Kira remembered how the other Selvari diplomats had laughed when she told them she was leaving her position to marry a human farmer. And they asked her why she would waste her talents on such a simple life. She never regretted her choice. The colony world of Verus Prime was perfect for their family. A quiet place where humans and Selvari had lived together for 20 years, building something beautiful far from the politics of the galactic core. Daniel came inside with dirt on his hands and a warm smile on his face. And Lily ran to greet him with the excitement only a child could show. "Father, look what I made today," Lily said, holding up a drawing of their family standing under 2 suns. Daniel knelt down to her level and studied the artwork with serious attention, his brown eyes taking in every detail as if it were a masterpiece hanging in a museum. "This is wonderful, sweetheart," he said, and his voice was gentle like always, soft and warm like a blanket on a cold night. Kira watched them together and felt her heart swell with love. And she wondered how anyone could see humans as dangerous when they were capable of such tenderness. Lily had inherited her father's kind eyes and her mother's silver blue skin, and she was the most beautiful thing Kira had ever seen that evening. They sat together for dinner, and Daniel told stories that made Lily laugh. And Kira listened to the sound of joy filling their home. This was everything she wanted. Peace and love and family, but peace never lasts forever. The knock came just as they finished eating, a sharp sound that echoed through their quiet home like a warning. Kira opened the door to find a Selvari council messenger standing there, his formal robes marking him as someone important. And his expression told her the news would not be good. "Ambassador Voss," he said, using her old title, "I bring word from the High Council." Daniel appeared behind her, and she felt his hand rest gently on her shoulder. The messenger looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to another before speaking again. "The Drath hegemony has declared this sector as their territory," he said. "They have given all colonies 30 days to evacuate or face complete destruction." Kira felt the ground shift beneath her feet, and the peaceful world she had built suddenly seemed fragile. The Drath were conquerors, a militant empire that had swallowed dozens of worlds in their expansion, and they showed no mercy to those who resisted. "What is the Council doing about this?" Kira asked, her diplomatic training taking over. The messenger shook his head slowly. "The Council has decided not to engage the Drath militarily," he said. "The risk is too great, and this colony is not strategically important enough to justify a war." Kira wanted to scream at him, to tell him that her home and her family were important enough. But she held her tongue. "So we are to run," she said instead. "Evacuation ships will arrive within 2 weeks," the messenger replied. "I am sorry, Ambassador." He turned and left, and Kira stood frozen in the doorway. Daniel closed the door gently and turned to face her. And she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. It was not fear, it was something else. Something darker and colder, like watching a storm gather on the horizon. "Daniel," she said, reaching for his hand, "what are we going to do?" He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was different somehow, harder than she had ever heard it. They should not have come here. He said. Kara felt a chill run through her body, despite the warmth of their home. What do you mean? She asked. Daniel looked toward Lily's room, where their daughter was playing with her toys, unaware that her world was about to change. I mean that running is not the only option, he said. Kara studied her husband's face, searching for the gentleman she married, and she found him still there. But there was something else now, something hidden beneath the surface that she had never noticed before. Daniel, the Drath have hundreds of ships, she said. There is nothing we can do against them. He turned to look at her, and his eyes held a depth she had never seen, a weight that spoke of memories he had never shared. You might be surprised, he said quietly, what humans can do when someone threatens their family. She wanted to ask him what he meant, wanted to understand the change that had come over him so suddenly, but something in his expression made her hesitate. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Kira lay awake beside her husband and listened to his breathing. She had always thought she knew everything about Daniel Porter. Now she wondered if she knew him at all, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the Drath Armada prepared to bring war to her doorstep. Unaware that they had made a terrible mistake, they had threatened the family of a human who had learned long ago how to be gentle, and they would soon learn what happened when he stopped. The days that followed the messenger's visit brought changes that Kira could not ignore, and she watched her husband transform in ways that frightened her. Daniel spent long hours in his old storage shed, the one he had always kept locked, and she heard him speaking on communication devices late into the night. When she asked him what he was doing, he gave her vague answers and gentle smiles, but his eyes told a different story. On the fifth night, Kira decided she could not wait any longer. She found him in the shed, surrounded by equipment she did not recognize, holographic displays showing star charts and ship movements, and communication arrays far more advanced than anything a farmer would need. Daniel, she said from the doorway, I need you to tell me the truth. He turned to face her, and for a moment he looked like a stranger, his posture straighter and his expression harder than she had ever seen. Then he sighed, and some of the gentleness returned to his features. You deserve to know, he said. I should have told you years ago. He gestured for her to sit, and she took a place beside him among the strange equipment. Before I came to Verus Prime, he began, I was not a farmer. I was a soldier. Kira felt something cold settle in her stomach. I served 15 years in the United Earth Defense Force. Daniel continued. I was a combat engineer and tactical specialist, and I fought in campaigns that most people have never heard of. She stared at him, trying to match these words with the man who read bedtime stories and grew vegetables. The Crimson Nebula campaign, he said, and his voice grew distant. Lasted 3 years, and when it ended, we had lost 4 million soldiers, but we won. Daniel, Kira whispered. Why did you never tell me this? He looked down at his hands, the same hands that held their daughter so gently. Because I came here to forget, he said. I came here to become someone new, someone who did not carry the weight of all those deaths. Kira reached out and took his hand in hers. The man I married, she said. Is he real? Daniel met her eyes, and she saw pain there, deep and old. He's real, Daniel said. The gentleman you know is who I chose to become. But he is not all that I am. He stood and walked to one of the displays, showing images of ships and weapons. Humans are not naturally peaceful, he said. We have fought wars since the beginning of our history, killed each other over land and resources and ideas, and we became very good at it. Kira listened in silence, feeling like she was meeting her husband for the first time. The peace you see in me is not weakness, Daniel continued. It is a choice I make every single day, because I know what I am capable of when I stop making that choice. And now, Kira said slowly, you are choosing something different. Daniel turned back to her, and his expression was resolute. "The Drath have threatened our home," he said. "They have threatened our daughter, and I will not run. I will not let them take everything we have built." "But how can you fight them?" Kira asked. "You are one man against an empire." A small smile crossed his face. The first she had seen since the messenger arrived. "I am not alone," he said. He activated one of the displays. And Kira saw a list of names, dozens of them, with ship registrations and coordinates. "When humans leave the military, we do not forget each other," Daniel explained. "I served with men and women who would walk through fire for their comrades, and many of them settled in the outer colonies. Just like me." "You called them," Kira said. "I called them," Daniel confirmed. And they answered. The display showed ships moving toward Varus Prime, civilian vessels modified with weapons, piloted by veterans who had answered a call to arms. "They are coming here," Kira asked. "They are already on their way," Daniel said. "Hidden in asteroid fields and nebula clouds." Waiting for my signal, Kira stood and faced her husband. This stranger, who wore the face of the man she loved. "The Selvari classified humans as Category 3, she said. "Non-aggressive, suitable for labor and technical roles." Daniel laughed softly. But there was no humor in the sound. "Your people made a mistake," he said. "Human gentleness is not our nature. It is our discipline. And when that discipline breaks, when someone threatens what we love, we become something else entirely." Outside, the twin suns of Varus Prime were setting, casting long shadows across the farm. "What happens now?" Kira asked. Daniel looked toward their house, where Lily was playing in her room, innocent and unaware. "Now we prepare," he said. "The Drath think they are coming to conquer a helpless colony, but they are walking into a trap, and if it fails," Kira asked. Her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel pulled her close and held her tight. And for a moment he was her gentle husband again. "Then I will die protecting you and Lily," he said. "But I promise you this, Kira, if I fall, I will take so many of them with me that the Drath will never forget the cost of threatening a human's family." She believed him, and for the first time, she understood why the galaxy should fear humanity, not because they were violent, but because they could choose when to unleash that violence, and Daniel Porter had made his choice. The ships came in silence, slipping through the dark spaces between stars like ghosts returning home. And Kira watched from the colony's observation deck as the impossible became Real 47. Vessels now hid among the asteroids surrounding Varus Prime, each one crewed by humans who had answered Daniel's call. They were not military ships, not officially, but Kira could see the modifications that turned cargo haulers and passenger transports into weapons of war. Daniel stood at the center of the command station they had built in an abandoned mining facility, and he moved with a purpose she had never seen in him before. Other humans deferred to him without question, calling him commander and waiting for his orders. This was the man he used to be, the soldier who had survived campaigns that killed millions, and somehow he was still her husband. "The Drath Advance Fleet entered the outer system an hour ago," said a woman named Lisa Cole, who served as Daniel's second in command. 12 scout ships. Moving toward the colony, Daniel studied the holographic display showing enemy positions. "They are testing us," he said, "trying to see if we will run or fight." "What do we do?" Lisa asked. "We let them see what they want to see," Daniel replied. A frightened colony preparing to evacuate. He turned to address the room full of veterans. "The Drath expect us to be weak," he said. "They have conquered dozens of worlds and face no real resistance, so they have grown careless. And careless enemies make mistakes." Kira listened from the corner of the room. Still struggling to understand this transformation, a Selvari military advisor named Torrens stood beside her, his face showing the same confusion she felt. "This is madness," Torrens said quietly. "The Drath Armada has 200 warships, and your husband has less than 50 civilian vessels. They are not just civilian vessels anymore, Kira replied. Even so, Torin continued, the mathematics of war are simple, and these numbers guarantee defeat. Kira remembered what Daniel had told her about human warfare. My husband says humans do not fight fair, she said. They fight to win. Torin shook his head in disbelief. No strategy can overcome such overwhelming force, he insisted. Daniel's voice cut across the room, and Kira realized he had heard their conversation. So far, I think war is about ships and weapons, he said. Walking toward them, you calculate victories based on numbers and firepower, and you have done well with that approach. He stopped in front of Torin and met the alien's eyes without flinching. But humans learned war differently. Daniel continued. We learned that victory belongs to those who want it more, to those willing to sacrifice everything, to those who fight not for glory, but for survival. Pretty words, Torin said. But words do not destroy warships, Daniel smiled. And it was not a gentle expression. No, he agreed, but determination does. And the Drath have no idea what they have awakened. He returned to the command display and began issuing orders. Positioning ships and assigning targets, Scaref followed him, wanting to understand his plan. The asteroid field, Daniel explained, pointing to the display. We have spent the last week turning it into a killing ground, and every rock larger than a shuttle now carries a fusion core. You weaponized the asteroids. Kira asked. Kinetic missiles, Daniel confirmed. Each one capable of destroying a warship on impact. And the Drath will never see them coming. He showed her more of the preparations. Mines disguised as debris. Electronic warfare systems designed to confuse enemy targeting. Civilian transponders that would make their ships appear harmless until the moment they struck. This is not honorable warfare, Kira said. No, Daniel agreed. It is not, but honor is a luxury we cannot afford when our families are at stake. That night, Kira brought Lily to the shelter where the colony's children were being kept safe. And she watched Daniel say goodbye to their daughter. He knelt down and held Lily's small hands in his own. Father, are you going to fight the bad aliens? Lily asked. Daniel's expression softened, and for a moment he was just a father again. Yes, sweetheart, he said. I have to keep you safe. Will you come back? Lily asked. And her innocent voice carried a weight that broke Kira's heart. Daniel pulled his daughter into a tight embrace. I will do everything I can to come back to you, he promised. But no matter what happens, I need you to remember that your father loves you more than anything in the universe. Lily nodded against his shoulder. I love you too, Father, she said. Kara felt tears forming in her eyes as she watched them together. This was why humans were dangerous. She realized, not because they were violent, but because they had something worth fighting for. Daniel stood and turned to his wife. The Drath Armada will be here in 6 hours, he said. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that I have no regrets, because meeting you and having Lily were the greatest gifts of my life. Kira kissed him, holding him close. Come back to us, she whispered. I will try, he said, and then he was gone. Walking toward the shuttle that would take him to his ship, Kara watched him go and prayed to whatever gods might listen. The storm was coming, and her gentle husband had become something else entirely. Tomorrow, the Drath would learn the truth about humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Drath Armada emerged from hyperspace like a dark cloud spreading across the stars. 200 warships arranged in perfect formation, and Kira watched from the colony's emergency bunker as death came to Varys. Prime, she held Lily close while monitoring the communication channels, listening to the voices of humans preparing for what seemed like certain destruction. Enemy fleet has entered weapons range, Lisa Cole reported over the tactical channel. Daniel's voice came through clear and calm, carrying none of the fear Kira felt. All ships hold position, he commanded. Wait for my signal. The Drath commander broadcast on open frequencies, his voice dripping with contempt. "Attention, colonists," the alien said. "Your time for evacuation has ended. Surrender now, and we will show mercy, resist, and we will burn your world to ash." Silence answered him. "Very well." The Drath commander continued. "Your deaths will serve as a lesson to others who might think of defying the hegemony." The enemy fleet began its advance, moving toward the colony with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. They did not see the danger waiting among the asteroids. Now, Daniel said, the first wave of kinetic missiles launched from the asteroid field. Rocks transformed into weapons by human engineering, and they struck the Drath formation with devastating force. 12 warships vanished in fireballs that lit up the darkness of space. The Drath formation scattered in confusion, their perfect arrangement breaking apart as commanders struggled to understand what had happened. "All ships engage," Daniel ordered, and 47 modified vessels emerged from their hiding place. Kara watched the battle unfold on the tactical display, her heart pounding as she witnessed humanity at war. The human ships moved differently than the Drath expected, not in ordered formations, but in chaotic patterns that made them difficult to track. They darted between asteroids and debris, using the environment as cover, while the Drath struggled to adapt. "They are using civilian transponders," a Drath officer shouted over the intercepted communications. "We cannot distinguish hostile vessels from evacuation ships." It was exactly what Daniel had planned. The mines hidden in the debris fields claimed more victims, destroying or crippling Drath vessels that wandered too close, but the Drath had numbers on their side. And slowly they began to recover from their initial shock. "Cowards," the Drath commander roared over open channels. "Face us in honorable combat instead of hiding like vermin." Daniel's response was broadcast to everyone in the system. "You come to our home and threaten our families," he said, and his voice was cold enough to freeze stars. "You expect us to fight fair, to give you the battle you want, but you are mistaken." He paused, and when he spoke again, every word carried the weight of absolute conviction. "We do not care about your honor," Daniel continued. "We care about survival. We care about protecting those we love. And we will burn this entire galaxy to ash before we let you touch our children." Kira shivered at the darkness in her husband's voice. This was not the man who read bedtime stories. This was the soldier who had survived the Crimson Nebula. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta." Daniel commanded. The human fleet converged on the Drath flagship, a massive vessel that served as the command center for the entire armada. The Drath tried to protect it, but the humans had been waiting for this moment. Daniel's ship, a modified freighter named the Harvest Moon, led the assault. The engineering team had done something to the reactor. Kira had heard them discussing it, something that turned the ship itself into a weapon-charging primary weapon. Lisa reported from Daniel's ship. 30 seconds to full power. The Drath flagship opened fire with everything it had, and Kira watched in horror as human ships exploded around her husband. But Daniel did not stop. 20 seconds. Lisa said more human vessels fell, their crews sacrificing themselves to give their commander time. 10 seconds. The Harvest Moon was burning now, its hull torn open by Drath weapons, but it kept moving forward. "Fire," Daniel ordered. Beam of pure plasma erupted from the modified freighter, punching through the Drath flagship's shields and armor like they were paper. The command vessel exploded in a cascade of light, taking the Drath commander with it. The enemy fleet froze, suddenly leaderless. "All ships," Daniel broadcast, "pursue and disable. No retreat, no quarter." The human fleet, battered but unbroken, descended on the confused Drath like wolves on scattered prey. Ship after ship fell to human weapons, and those that tried to flee were hunted down and crippled. Kara watched her husband's ship chase down a retreating destroyer, disabling its engines with precision fire. "Surrender," Daniel demanded over open channels. Surrender and you will live. Run and you will die. The remaining Drath ships surrendered when it was over. Kira looked at the tactical display and struggled to believe what she saw. The 7 civilian ships had defeated an armada of 200 warships. The cost had been high. 18 human vessels destroyed and hundreds dead. But they had won. She should have felt relief instead. She felt afraid because she had heard her husband's voice during the battle. Cold and merciless, and she did not recognize the man speaking. Those words, the gentle farmer she married, had vanished in. His place stood something terrifying, and she did not know if he could ever come back. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as news of the battle spread across 1,000 worlds. And diplomats and generals tried to understand how a handful of humans had shattered the Drath war machine. Hegemony sent ambassadors within days, begging for peace terms that would spare them further destruction. But Kira cared nothing for politics or treaties. She only cared about her husband, who had returned home. A stranger, Daniel, sat in their garden at night, alone under the twin moons of Varus Prime. And he did not sleep. Kira watched him from the window, seeing the way his shoulders carried a weight that had nothing to do with physical burden. The gentle man she married had saved their colony, but something inside him had broken to do it on the 3rd night after the battle. She walked out to join him. He did not look up when she sat beside him, his eyes fixed on some distant point. Only he could see. "I killed so many of them," he said finally, his voice hollow. "I watched their ships burn and felt nothing. No regret, no mercy, just cold satisfaction." Kira took his hand, feeling the calluses from years of farming. "You did what you had to do," she said. Daniel shook his head slowly. "That is what I told myself during the Crimson Nebula," he replied. "That is what I told myself every time I made a choice that cost lives. And I believed it until I stopped believing anything." He turned to look at her, and she saw tears in his eyes. "I came to Varus Prime to escape that man," he said. "I became a farmer because I needed to prove that I could create life instead of destroying it. And when I met you, when we had Lily, I thought I had finally outrun my past." "You did become someone new," Kira insisted. "The man who raised our daughter, who tends this garden, who has never spoken a harsh word in our home. That man is real." "Is he?" Daniel asked. "Or is he just a mask I wear to hide from what I really am?" Kira squeezed his hand tighter. "Let me tell you what I learned," she said. "Watching you these past weeks." He waited, silent and listening. "My people classified humans as Category 3, she began, "because we saw your kindness and assumed it was weakness. We saw your gentleness and thought it meant you could not be dangerous." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "But I understand now," she continued. "Your kindness is not weakness, Daniel. It is strength. Because you know exactly what you are capable of. And every single day you choose not to be that." Daniel's expression flickered. A crack in the armor he had built around himself. "The soldier I saw during the battle was terrifying," Kira admitted. "But he was not a monster. He was a man protecting his family, doing whatever it took to keep us safe." "I was so cold," Daniel whispered. "I felt the old me coming back, the one who sees enemies instead of people. And I was afraid I would never feel anything else again." Kira leaned her head against his shoulder. "But you came back," she said. "You are here now, sitting in our garden, mourning the lives you took, and that proves you are still the man I married." "How can you be sure?" he asked. "Because a monster would not feel this pain," Kira answered. "A monster would not sit under the stars and weep for his enemies. Only a good man carries this weight. And you carry it because you are good." Daniel was quiet for a long time, and when he finally spoke, his voice was steadier. "I want to be that man again," he said. "The farmer, the father, the husband who makes you smile. Then be him," Kira said simply. "The soldier will always be part of you, but he does not have to be all of you. And I will be here to remind you of that every single day. The sound of small footsteps made them both turn. Lily stood in the doorway, her silver blue skin glowing softly in the moonlight. "Father," she called out, "I had a bad dream." Daniel rose and walked to his daughter, kneeling down to her level. "What kind of dream?" he asked. And his voice was gentle again. "I dreamed you went away and did not come back," Lily said, her eyes wet with tears. Daniel pulled her into his arms and held her tight. "I am here," he promised. "I will always come back to you, no matter what." Kira watched them together, father and daughter, and she felt hope bloom in her chest. The war was over, and the healing could begin. Months passed, and life on Varus Prime slowly returned to normal. Daniel tended his garden again, growing vegetables and flowers with the same patience he had always shown. The Selvari Council reclassified humans as Category 1, the highest threat designation in their system, and they began treating Earth's people with a respect born of fear. But Kira knew the truth, that the Council would never understand humans were not dangerous because of their capacity for violence. They were dangerous because they could choose when to unleash it and when to hold it back. Her husband had shattered a war fleet to protect his family, and then he had come home to read bedtime stories and plant seeds in the earth. That was true strength. One evening, as the twin sons sat over their farm, Lily asked her father a question. "Father, why do people say humans are scary?" Daniel looked at his daughter and smiled. The same gentle smile Kira had fallen in love with years ago. "Because we choose to be kind," he answered. "And that means we can also choose to be something else. But you, my sweet girl, will never have to make that choice, because I will always be here to protect you." Lily hugged him tight, satisfied with his answer. Kira stood in the doorway and watched them together, her family, her whole world, and she finally understood why the galaxy had learned to fear humans, not because they were violent, but because when they loved something, they would burn the stars themselves to keep it safe, and then they would come home, wash the ash from their hands, and become gentle again. That was humanity. That was her husband, and she loved him. All of him. The farmer and the soldier, the gentleman and the one whose wrath could shatter the stars.